we're all in the same
They're
building.
live.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to House General and Finance. It is still general and House General and Housing. Thank you. Everybody else is making bird sounds. I can, okay. So it is Friday, May 2nd, and we are talking about S-127, our housing bill from the Senate, which we are using as our vehicle. And we are not just attempting, but succeeding in assembling a final version of the bill to vote on, hopefully today. And our legislative counsel, Cameron Wood, took us through a 46-page version, draft 2.1 of S-127. And we made a few suggestions, which Cameron is now going to review with us.
Yes, sir. If you give me a brief moment.
It's ridiculous. It's like,
I have to start wearing short sleeve shirts.
no, the heat is not.
I am trying to get this saved so I can email it to Golly. And that way you all will have access to it. So bear with me. Okay. Just actually got it back from the editors too. So.
Thank you.
All our foundation is open this weekend.
Oh, up in, Reading?
Reading, yeah. But they've got a couple of really interesting exhibits.
I'm glad that it's raining tomorrow.
What's that?
Now I'm glad it's gonna rain tomorrow.
Right?
Right? Keep me on the job.
I would suggest you open the door. Just because it might improve ventilation somewhat. Thank you.
We definitely will. They have room. Great.
You guys want printed copies as well?
I don't think so.
We're gonna still get more edits, right?
It's an 80-page, 80+ page bill. It's gonna take you quite a while.
Draft, or what you got back from drafting, is that inclusive of John's portion of Jess? Oh, love to hear that.
Oh, John's got, okay, great. So all that's missing is Ellen's
It's
part,
Ellen's little.
right?
Whatever you
Here.
just discussed with
Yeah,
Ron.
okay.
Okay.
Should be on.
Okay, I'll tell you what's a look in here. Under Cam, right? Friday, May 2nd. Cameron Wood, draft 2.1 is up, but that's not this one.
3.1.
It's loaded, okay.
We're that's a Luke in your email, but you made a one.
What's up?
Okay, draft 3.1. All right.
Great. Okay,
Is it highlighted again in yellow?
there are portions that are highlighted in yellow, yes, sir.
All right.
That will not matter for your voting purposes.
Yeah, but in terms of going through it now.
Yes, correct. Okay, so for the record, Cameron Wood, Office of Legislative Counsel, you have a draft 3.1. Apologies, I'm gonna scroll quickly. I don't recall exactly what page numbers they were, so forgive me for those following along online. Page 6, first change there, VHIP, 9 months instead of a year.
Okay.
The next change is gonna be on page 13. So this is the Universal Design Study Committee. I hope you're okay, but I simply took the liberty instead of adding this to each individual
Yeah, I
member.
was wondering whether you could do that.
I think that's what we talked about
We had talked
originally.
about it originally. I just wasn't sure whether would necessarily be observed, but
So for everybody, this is, for membership for the committee, obviously, you can read it. The committee shall be composed of the following members with preference for appointment of members with lived experience. So that would apply to every
Yeah.
individual, not just the ones we discussed. So, okay. This page 15, it includes associate general contractors. I left that highlighted for our editors to highlight to them if they hadn't seen it. So that's, you reviewed that just briefly moments ago. So now we're in the House and Residential Services Planning Committee. This is page 18. You will see that we've added one member appointed by associate general contractors on that as well. We all discussed that briefly a moment ago. I'm going to keep moving. Again, apologies for all of the scrolling. I think
members of the House and the Senate should have lived experience myself. Okay,
so it would apply to those people as well.
okay, okay, all right. I'm just making sure. Okay,
I think that might be all of the changes that we went through in regards to. Yes, so I'm gonna stop because we're on page 41 and this is the tax increment financing section. And with your leave, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague Ellen for provisions related to this. Ellen, you wanna keep this computer or you want me to stop sharing?
LJ County, the Office of Legislative
you know what? I think, can we grab a chair here for Ellen? Come on up. It's easier to hear you when you're up there.
Yes.
I'll let Ellen take
I was trying to. Sure. All right. Oh, no, will you leave that? Sorry. What's open on my laptop is the draft. So Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. So I did not draft this, but John is elsewhere. So the changes that are in yellow are what you requested from him this morning with your memo. So starting on page 42, there are definitions here for household of low income and household of moderate income.
Okay,
So 80% AMI as defined by HUD
yeah,
and up to 120% AMI by HUD.
okay,
Page 44. Low or moderate income housing means housing for which the total annual cost of renting or ownership as applicable does not exceed 30% of the gross annual income of a household of low income or moderate income. And then lower moderate income housing development means a housing development of which at least 20% of the units are low or moderate income housing units. They are subject to covenants or restrictions that preserve their affordability until all indebtedness for the housing infrastructure project, which the housing development is part, has been retired.
okay. Just 1 second. Okay. Go on.
Okay, so on page 48. This is in subdivision A4. They must provide terms and sufficient remedies, or if the municipality so elects an ordinance to ensure that any housing unit within the housing development be initially offered exclusively as a bona fide domicile.
Okay.
Did you do 44? I'm
Yep.
sorry. Page 44 you do. I'm sorry.
Yes.
48, okay, so this is the, yeah. Everybody there, got it, bona fide, initially. Okay, all right,
So next, I think this is so next on page, sorry, 49, 50,
49,
49. Change to at least 70% of the gross floor area of the projected housing development is dedicated to housing.
guys,
I think it was-
everybody,
We're gonna say
60?
Joe's
didn't we just,
up from 60.
yeah, 60 to 70, and we decided after going around a few times that the VEPC approval process and the appeals to the board was like enough.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, just. Okay, go on,
Page 50.
yeah. Right,
The council shall request the Housing and Community Infrastructure Program Board to determine whether the projected housing development will meaningfully address the purposes in section 1907 of this subchapter and the housing needs of the community, and the board's affirmative determination will satisfy the project criterion.
okay,
All right, and then this is my part on 51. So 51, part of the location criteria. So you've added on page 51, subdivision 3. So you have either for the location criterion, they have their Act 250 permits in hand, then they've satisfied the location criteria, or within 1A or 1B or exempt under the interim housing, existing settlement. And then the newest 3, an area located within tier 2 under Act 250 that has permanent zoning and subdivision bylaws, and where the project site would be eligible to become tier 1 when the improvements funded in the housing infrastructure project are complete.
okay,
Next on page 51, subdivision F. Low or moderate affordability criterion.
She decides, I got it, yeah.
Pepsi shall review a municipality's housing infrastructure project application to determine whether the projected housing development is a low or moderate income housing development. Okay,
That is gonna be determined by the definitions we've already given, right? So
Although, let's be clear, there's flexibility. VEPC can decide, remember, it's encouraged,
yeah,
okay, so there's some flexibility.
right.
But we wanted to be real clear what it is
That
and
we're-
that they have to decide it.
Okay. So this is like the compromise agreement.
Yeah.
Would also provide
Where's that?
consent.
Okay, what is this? Oh, okay, now we're at the, okay,
The education property tax increment for housing infrastructure project that does not satisfy the low or moderate affordability criterion of section 1910 of the subchapter, up to 70% of the education property tax increment may be retained for up to 20 years.
I do think there's a mistake here.
Okay,
Let's go back here. Yeah, okay. Remember on page 44, you've defined low and moderate housing development, 20%, et cetera.
Mhm.
Okay. The reason that's there is because now let's go back to, where is it? No, that we were, what page were you? just on?
56.
56.
I think our intent there. I think our intent is to say. It's. For a housing infrastructure project that is not a. Affordable housing project, or what was the definition?
It's right, she's got it. Does not satisfy, you only get 50 or look up to 70%. Is
Does
retained,
not,
and then.
no, but you
affordable
see
is
the
moderate.
affordability criterion.
Yeah.
It says encourage, 1910 is flexible. What we mean is for a housing infrastructure project that is not an affordable housing project
Yeah,
as defined. We go back to that definition on page.
Right.
Whatever it is,
34?
or wherever the definition.
where was the definition we just went through? Which is not it's on page 44, paragraph 14.
Mhm.
Which is not a low or moderate income housing development.
Mhm.
Then it's 70%. If it is a low or moderate income housing development, it's 80.
I thought we were splitting it by low and moderate, not combining the two when you wanted to.
Oh, low or
I thought if it met the moderate definition,
well, if we, then
then
we
you get the
should put-
70-30.
Yeah,
If it fits. Because it's not, is it the whole project you're intending to
no, I
do?
think,
So if that 20%
yeah, so it should be low and.
is met, you can do the whole project at
Yeah,
80%?
yeah.
What's that?
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
in other words, let's be real clear, because
Yes.
a lower here's a project comes in and 20% of it is subsidized one way or another. So it's either low,
Subsidized for low
Yeah,
or
or
subsidized for
moderate.
moderate.
right, or both, but I mean, if it's all moderate, it's fine. That's 80%.
Even if it's,
That's 80%. In other words, if 20% of the project is low.
that's the
or
way it's
moderate-
written right now.
No, it says the criteria of 1907. Criteria of 1907 is encourage, is 1907.
1910.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1910 is, I'm sorry, just a minute, I may be. 1906 definition. Where was it? Page.
I can let you.
You can admit yourself there. Hey,
Thank you.
you want to stop sharing?
What is 1910?
So you've added a criterion in
Oh,
19.
yeah, 1910. 1910. That's the page. I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure we're okay.
And that's page 51.
Page,
Yeah, 51. You've added subdivision F.
page 51.
Page 51 is just the,
All that is just that Betsy has to review it.
yeah.
So why, I'm sorry, I'm not the drafter on this.
Yeah.
So why are you including the criterion there for low and
I
affordable?
think that the F was just, all that F was there was an answer to the question of who decides. That's what Betsy decides, okay? That's all, which was what we understood anyway. Betsy decides.
So it's section,
Yeah.
it's subchapter 7, section 1906 is definitions. Is that where you want to refer to?
I want to refer to there's
Page 42,
page 40.
household of low
Yes,
income.
no.
No.
Page 44. Paragraph 14. The only
Section
purpose, it's
1906.
the only purpose of this section. The only reason this matters is the differential between 80% and 70%. That's the reason it's in there. We are not imposing an across the board in this, 20% requirement. We are just dealing with this 20% requirement when we are trying to push the infrastructure share up to 80%. So we should refer, so one of those paragraphs should say something like, I just want to make sure I've got it, low or moderate income housing development. Should say something like, I mean, and he put that in there.
So
It should say, back where you were. I'm sorry, I don't have it. It takes me a minute. It's to say for housing infrastructure projects that is not a low and moderate income housing project, as in paragraph 14 of section whatever, comma. Then it's just that. It's just referring to that. And for one that is, it's 80%.
but you have you have this criterion that that VEPS is going to be looking at as part of their application where they are making that determination. So 44 is just the
I see.
definition.
So in other words,
Yeah, so
I see. Okay, so we're just referring to VEPSI's decision. In other words, if VEPSI's decision is yes, it is. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I kept thinking we're 1907, not 1910. Okay. Forget I said any of it. Sorry. Okay. Go on.
okay, that was page 56.
Added in general and housing.
Yep, on page 59, your committee has been added. I apparently don't have Wi-Fi in this room, so I can't stay in your Zoom. But your committee has been added to the report on page 59.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay,
And it's been added to
60.
the report on page.
60.
Wait a minute, it's supposed to be added twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Next page.
It's on 59 and 60.
It's at the middle of 59 and then it's at the bottom of 60.
Okay.
so next on the bottom of page 65, this is what I actually need to talk to you about. So this is the question I was attempting to get some clarity on. So back on page 51, you've added a third prong of the location criteria, which is tier 2, if it has permanent zoning and subdivision bylaws, and where the project will help it become eligible for tier 1. But you also had this other request about, I'm sorry, is it up?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you also had this other language about if the area has been delineated as a transition or infill area on the regional plan future land use map. And so, what I did not ask you this morning was if these are two separate things or if one is replacing the other. And so the language on page 65 is the later in time criteria.
Oh, this is what was section 29A in the draft 5.2 of,
Yes,
in other words,
it's
this was the one that didn't become effective until 2028. Okay.
so you're adding in the current statute that is going to be effective, tier 2 with the caveat. This is later in time for 2028. And so,
It doesn't make sense for it to be both.
Well,
do you want it to be both? So, yes, this is the question. I had drafted it as having the infill area replace the tier 1 eligibility, but I do think you maybe want it to be either.
here's what happened. We had this discussion preliminarily. And of course, our august legislative council asked me a question that I'd never thought about. In the part of the statute that is going to become effective on July 1 of this year, Lord willing, what we've done is say, hey, you don't just have to be in tier 1 or 2, 1 or associated expansion areas or whatever. You also can be in tier 2 if you're sort of tier 1able. If you could get into tier 1 because of the infrastructure project that we are funding, then you can be, and you don't have to go through Act 250 or any of that. I mean, it's just what it is. You're in. So then, and I don't know how many of those are. I don't know yet, are there a lot of places like that? It's just that we could imagine that towns like your town, suppose that, your town manager said, we're trying to get it into tier 1. But supposing she doesn't, supposing it's right next to tier 1, but it isn't. But it doesn't have the infrastructure, but then we fund the infrastructure. And so what we would say is VEPSI can't say, no, you're not approved. Okay.
For sure.
So then the second question came up. Well, what about 2028? And we put in this transition or infill area language. But when she said, why not leave in both? And it just would potentially maybe expand the number of towns that might be eligible. And I thought, what's the harm?
I think the shorter version of that is this is the same statute, just in 2 different periods of time.
Yeah.
So do you want them to match, or are you changing something?
I think that the second one, I think that in the second one, the one that is not present,
Future in time.
future in time, we should have both. I don't think we should have both now. The reason those things haven't been done yet.
I have.
Yeah.
Just a broader view question of this, thinking back to our VHIP language.
Yeah.
When we change something like that, saying that, if you do this infrastructure, you would have been tier 1. We're making that assumption like, well, you would have been. You don't have to go through the process, become tier 1 because of this. When earlier in the bill, we've changed in VHIP, somebody who is eligible to approved, because for the same reason, you're not approved for it unless you're approved for it. You can be eligible as long as you want until the paperwork's done and you're approved.
Yeah.
Are we in the same boat with this of
It's eligible.
we're just saying that
It's
nobody has any say in it, because other than the VEPSI board saying that that's who so the VEPSI board now determines who's tier 1 as far as that project goes. They're just saying you are tier 1 now.
yeah,
And the
although
process to go through your town actually requesting it is null and void now because you don't need to.
here's the way I think it operates. No, I think the way it operates is, let's say a town wants to apply to VEPSI. And they do, okay?
Yeah.
VEPSI has to make a bunch of different decisions as to whether to approve it. A lot of them relate to, well, is your project financeable? And, is it financeable, and is the increment that you show on your pro forma enough to build this infrastructure? All that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the initial things they have to decide is, do you meet the location criteria? And if VEPSI decides that you're in tier 1, when it
Yeah.
may be, or that this infrastructure will make you eligible for tier 1, not in it, but eligible for it. That's their decision.
But
What I was told is the municipality, to make the application, if they make, what I was just told when I asked somebody,
You asked me.
the
Yes.
municipality basically is gonna decide that.
They're going to know what they need to become eligible for tier 1. And so they could say to VEPSI, if you grant us this funding for this infrastructure project, it will make us eligible for tier 1. And hopefully that means they are then going to make their application for tier 1. It's not having VEPSI make the decision that they're going to be eligible for tier 1. It's the town saying, we need some kind of wastewater infrastructure to qualify to become tier 1, and getting this funding will get us there. So I think
But it's still the same situation of it, like if your town outside of any of this program, if your town applies to have a section of town become tier one, who makes that decision?
Whitler,
The LURB. So the LURB,
but they don't have to have done it yet.
terrible.
Same.
Land use review.
I stand by my statement. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying, are we in that same situation of like, this board has said, well, if this would, or this would put you as a tier one, if, once this project's done because of the infrastructure, and you do the project, and a year later, your town goes to the land use review board, and they say, no, it doesn't fall under it. Too bad.
Because you've got the infrastructure.
This board already says you did.
You've got the infrastructure, yeah.
Well, I don't think they would get the additional benefits of having the tier one. They may have gotten their infrastructure.
I'm just saying two different boards could disagree on this.
I think
And it's
that's a
basically
possibility. And
So then
you could try to address that.
I'm just saying it's a possibility that,
Would their plan be
I
in
hope
that
doesn't.
situation be active 50? To do an active 50 per? If they got that far and they put in the infrastructure and then they're told they're not tier one, they want to proceed, then they do it under active 50.
So not necessarily, because in both situations, it's the town, right? And the town itself might not be seeking an Act 250 permit. It's individual developer, they might, but the infrastructure may or may not require any kind of Act 250 permit. The tier one benefits are exemption from Act 250. And so getting the infrastructure can help them meet the requirements to get tier one A and an exemption. To get general exemptions for that area.
Okay.
Yeah, not for their individual project.
Okay.
No, this is complicated.
So both.
I'm good with it. I'm just,
So both. In the second one, not the first.
Yes.
Do we need to look at I don't know, are we ready to look at the effective date yet, or is that, we are?
Do you want to tag it?
I see.
Do
It
you
is-
want to jump back in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it's there, yeah. Go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, real quick, so page 66, this is after the section you were just discussing. You have the sections related to smoke and carbon monoxide alarms that we discussed. So again, apologies for the scroll, but just moving this along quickly here. Then you have the VHFA offsite construction report, then you get to the effective dates where all we've done is break out the subdivision 2 to make that one section, which is now section 26. I think it was maybe 21A in one of the versions you were looking at, previously in the standalone language, effective January 1, 2028.
Question. Is the draft that is now up, which we do not have a printed copy? Does Ellen have to put a piece in there? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, right?
So if Ellen makes changes based on your conversation you just had, it'll go to a draft 4.1.
Yeah. And that can be before us.
Well, the editors have to.
I'm not, you're gonna have it right now. Okay, so you can have it right now.
I defer to Ellen because it's her language and pieces. I would be comfortable with you voting on that if you wanted to.
Okay, so this will become. You want to change the number? How are we gonna do this?
It's draft 4.1. You can have it in like a minute.
We're gonna have it.
Amazing.
Okay,
We
great.
have the technology. to do it.
When you're ready,
We removed you got the highlights too. Well, we'll do.
We'll do that after. Yeah.
Ellen, don't rush too much.
Live.
So we, take
Can I,
10 minutes, what do we do to get to a draft?
Tom has a question.
just more of a confusing question, just remind me why section 26 waits until 2028?
That's when the map.
That's when the map will be ready.
I'm saying, I think you can vote on it right now if your committee is comfortable with that.
Okay. Do you wish, committee, to have a draft which is printed for us and lying on your desk in order to have a formal vote on this project?
I don't think we made any,
More trees to die.
many,
So impatient. Okay,
significant enough
Efficient is the
changes
word you're
to,
looking for.
okay.
And add with 15.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're prepared at this point to take a vote. Do I hear a motion to approve the,
Oh, we're looking for Sadia. We're looking for our member.
oh, wait,
We have Emily, but not. Sadia.
Emily,
Do you want me to look for her?
yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
No, but Sadia.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for Sylvia, do I hear a motion on the floor to approve draft 4.1 of X 127?
That we find draft 4.1 of S 127. Gail?
That was it.
Did I say it right? Oh, did you? Cool. I said.
it's left with the way.
Did we have a second?
It's left.
Second.
Second from Bethel. All right. So this is now on the floor. In this case, I'll ask two things. One is I'm going to give an opportunity for a vote after any final discussion. But I also would like, after the vote, to give the members who so wish the chance to explain their vote. Okay? If no one wants to, they don't. And she was out looking for
Me.
All good. Big building.
Mary, you all set?
Yes. Is there any final discussion?
Yes,
Go ahead, Joe.
my final discussion would be that I'm slightly disappointed, maybe that's putting it mildly, that in the months prior, we talked about how anything landlord tenant really needed more time, and we'd probably be working on that. Actually, not probably, we would be working on that next year as the second part of this biennium. And here we are throwing it in our housing bill, something that I think is actually a significant change to landlord tenant law. So with that, minus a few pages, a great bill, and unfortunately can't vote for it because of that. Yeah. It's,
Any other discussion? People can also explain their vote. Okay, could you call the roll?
Representative Bartley,
Yes.
Representative Burrows. Can you come back to me?
Sure.
Representative Charlton,
Yes.
Representative Dodge.
Yes.
Representative Dodgen,
Yes.
Representative Howard votes yes. Representative Krasnow,
Yes.
Representative Lamont,
Yes.
Representative Parsons,
no,
Representative Pezzo,
Yes.
Representative Mahali,
Yes.
Representative Burrows.
Yes, and I would like to explain my vote.
Zero.
So the final vote was what?
And 1-0.
Okay, now. I guess. I don't even know if there has to be a reporter of the bill at this time, does there?
Yes, I think Elizabeth wanted to explain her vote.
Yes, I'm going to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there have to be
Yes.
Yes.
to go out?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be the reporter of the bill now. I don't know if I'm gonna let you guys off the hook later, but I'll be the reporter of the bill now. Please, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Oh.
We just voted it out. Elizabeth?
I still think that it is there is a philosophical connection that is missing between these great big plans that our governor has. One in education where the governor plans for more than half of our schools to be shuttered. And yet at the same time, one in housing where we build everything everywhere all the time. And without any kind of sense of coordination between those two things whatsoever, as far as I can tell from the head of the fish. So I will vote in favor of this because I know we need more housing. But I see a lot of plans or a lot of problems taking a step back. And luckily, I probably won't be here when all of it comes to a head. But I think it's really an unfortunate way to govern a state.
I just want to say that, first of all, thank you, everyone, for your work on this, whether you voted yes or no. Second of all, I will inform leadership that what the vote was and the reasons for the vote. Just so they know without, just so they know what the issues are. I think that's important. And I will tell what we're going to do now. I will tell Nigel. Yes.
Are we done with our explanation of our vote?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm voting yes because
So, talk to you.
it does help with housing in rural areas. But I am still upset about 169 being, because I still get emails about how that's going to affect the landlords.
I will transmit that. Our next step is that, I guess, council will produce the final.
That 4.1 has been posted on your page.
It has been posted and
We'll get you the clean copies momentarily.
okay, and I'm gonna go now and inform Nigel, and then I will send I will send an email to Nigel with the clean copy of the bill when I get it. And I'm just gonna go over there now, and I'll come back, and when I have the clean copy, I'll inform Nigel, and what's going to happen is, he said, I went and told him, he said, he's waiting there. It is going to go out. It will appear on the floor on Tuesday and be immediately referred to Ways and Means, which has time on Tuesday to hear it. How long what they will do with it and in their wisdom remains to be seen. Yes. We next week are going to focus on S-125, which is the omnibus labor bill. Which, I mean, it's another simple, easy bill, right? Okay. We will focus on the leak that is, and how long is this draft? It's
70 pages now?
7.
Yes.
70, all right. We will focus on S-125, and S-125 will have a brief flyby in judiciary, and I'm not sure what else we're going to be doing, but our day begins in the afternoon on Tuesday. Okay? Everyone have a wonderful weekend. And with that, any last comments before we do?
Bye.
Sure.